What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Week 15 Start Sit program. We're going to go over the player news, the practice news from today, give you guys an idea of what's going on in the Wednesday world, and then we'll talk about any questions you guys have. So fire those questions up in the comments, and then, we'll open up some Start Sit charts and kind of look at some things for the weekend coming up. But again, I'm going to read the news first, and we'll get all the player practice news out of the way. I guess the ones that we need to be caring about. TJ Hawkinson does not practice today with a shin injury. Not sure what's going on there. We'll watch for his reports tomorrow. We're not super excited about TJ Hawkinson. Football, I believe, Dallas, Minnesota. So we'll watch for that one. Going up against Dallas, Hawkinson is on the fringe of being a tight end one. We did get Marshawn Lloyd practicing today for the Packers. I think he's on track to make his season debut in Week 15. We have a few guys for the Cleveland Browns not practicing. David Njoku, Dylan Sampson, and Cedric Tillman all not practicing today. They did just put Jerome Ford on IR. I think that was yesterday. So I'm expecting Dylan Sampson to have to be ready to play as the RB2 here. David Njoku, at this point, David Njoku probably shouldn't be on any rosters. We should be looking for other tight ends. It's officially Harold Fannin Jr. season. We're going to get Tutu Atwell playing this week here for the Rams. We have Rome Odunze limited in practice after missing practice all of last week. This is a really positive report here for Rome Odunze. So this puts him on track to maybe playing in Week 15 here, and we'll continue to watch his reports throughout the next few days. He's, the foot injury. But this is ahead of what I expected. I was listing him as doubtful, but I might have to make some adjustments here. Both Houston Texans running backs, Nick Chubb and Woody Marks, did not practice today. Nick Chubb's got the rib injury. Woody Marks has a knee thing. I think it's more of a precautionary thing for Woody Marks. Chubb did leave the game the other day, but we'll watch for the Houston backs tomorrow. Imari DiMercado limited for the Cardinals. No Marvin Harrison today, though. So looking like another week of no Marvin. I guess you're happy if you got Michael Wilson. Tough matchup, though, against the Texans. We have CeeDee Lamb with a limited today in practice, which is a great sign. I was expecting him to be listed as doubtful, but there's a chance that he might be playing in Week 15 here. Mason Taylor does not practice for the Jets, so fringe tight end one option if you needed him, but he doesn't practice today. And then Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor both don't practice today. So that's a big concern there if we're going to be looking at another week of Brady Cook. If it is Brady Cook, I don't really want to start any of the Jets. This game's going to be probably not close. I expect Jacksonville to have their way with the New York Jets, especially if it is Brady Cook. So Breece Hall, I don't even know if I'm going to have Breece Hall in my top 25 running backs this week. So we'll see. We did get a Parker Washington practicing update today with that hip injury. No Alvin Kamara just yet. He's got the knee and the ankle thing. I'm expecting him not to play this weekend. And then we get a surprise note from Riley Leonard, the Colts quarterback, fully practicing on Wednesday. So maybe no Phillip Rivers just yet. Maybe they give Riley Leonard one more chance. Chris Rodriguez, the Commanders' starting running back, did not practice with a groin injury. We'll watch for him. Maybe it's Jacory Krosky-Merritt with the backfield pretty much to himself. And then good news for Tyrone Tracy, full practice today, coming off that bye week. He had the hip thing that we were watching, so good news for Tyrone. And then we got some good news on Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan. They're both activated. They're playing tomorrow night. If they activated them, I have full confidence that they're going to play Evans, Godwin, and Igbuka. It's like the first time we're going to see those guys all three together. So I'm excited about the Bucs game. And then the last one that I got to probably call note to is Rico Dowdle not practicing today. Questions. That's interesting, especially coming off a bye. Panthers running back Rico Dowdle questionable. Chuba Hubbard should be added if he's available in your leagues. Kyle Pitts is listed as questionable tomorrow night, but I expect him to be the leading receiver for the Falcons. Drake London has been ruled out. We did get a T. Higgins limited note today as well. And Breece Hall actually didn't practice today either for the Jets. So a lot of things happening. We also have Jaden Daniels already ruled out. And then the Cardinals rule out Trey Benson. He won't be activated from the IR this season. So if you have Trey Benson in redraft, we can trim him from our roster. So a lot of stuff going on today. Big practice reports, playoffs, and good evening to Ron. Superflex, full PPR, Mariota versus the Giants, or Aaron Rodgers. Let me pull up my weekly rankings, which I just updated earlier today. I think Mariota is a little interesting. They did lose Zach Ertz, which hurts a little bit. Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel. I'm not opposed to playing Mariota. Mariota I have at QB 20 this week. Aaron Rodgers I have just a little bit lower here. Where is Mr. Rodgers? Man, I got him pretty low. I got Aaron Rodgers QB 27, so I think I'm leaning Marcus Mariota here just from the rushing upside against the Giants. David Montgomery, Jaylen Warren, or Wan'Dale Robinson, flex full PPR. I have Wan'Dale Robinson ranked pretty high. I don't have my running back receiver flex rankings out just yet, but I have Wan'Dale Robinson up at wide receiver 11. Montgomery, I'm a little bit lower on this week because of the tough matchup against the Rams. It's just usually not a good idea to play running backs against the Rams. And then in general, like, I expect the Rams to be playing from a lead in this one, but Monty could still be good. I definitely would play Jaylen Warren over David Montgomery if I had the choice. I have Warren at RB 18 right now, Montgomery down at RB 20, making the ties and going with Wan'Dale Robinson at home against the Commanders. And good evening to Frosty. Hope you're doing well. This one's going to be probably pretty easy. Marvin Harrison's probably not going to play. If he doesn't practice again tomorrow, Ron, we're going to fire up Michael Wilson. I'm a little concerned here with Mike Evans in his first game back. I don't know if I love that. Very concerned about Ashton Jeanty and the Raiders. I think Christian Watson might be the guy you're looking for here. And in a weekend where, like, I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we're bracing for a really terribly cold weekend. I think the high was listed as like 7 or 8 degrees on Sunday with wind chills bringing it below 0. So it's going to be pretty ugly, pretty cold, pretty windy. Green Bay playing in Denver. I saw that it's going to be warmer there. I don't hate the Christian Watson play. He's been red hot since he came back here, and I know it's and stuff like that, but he only needs one play to make our day. I don't have a lot of trust in Mark Andrews. So right now I'm leaning towards Michael Wilson and Christian Watson being the two guys that I trust the most here. Christian Watson is let's pull this up. Christian Watson's my wide receiver 22 for this week. Michael Wilson is, and I'm going to update this now that I got Michael Wilson at wide receiver 10. Wow. Even against Houston, but if he gets 15 targets again, Jesus. So we're going to go Michael Wilson and Christian Watson. I do have Mike Evans a little bit lower, but I'm going to probably boost him now that I feel pretty strongly about him playing. Where did I have him? Yeah, I got to boost Mike Evans, but it's still Michael Wilson and Christian Watson for me. Drop Garrett Wilson or Reed for Hubbard. Rico didn't practice. I would rather just drop Garrett Wilson. I'm going to hold on to Jaden Reed, who's attached to the Packers offense. Garrett Wilson, who knows what's going on with QB there. I'm going to stick with the Packers, Jaden Reed, and I will go get Chuba Hubbard. Yeah, and I would have liked to see Drake London play with Kirk Cousins a little bit more. I think that would have been really good for his fantasy floor. And now I have doubts that we're going to see him in week 16. So it is frustrating. Hopefully they got to give us more information. They've been pretty vague on everything that they've said about Drake London. So it is frustrating, but Kyle Pitts week, I guess, again. So Christian Watson's been absolutely amazing since he's come back here. And I don't think Pat Surtain's going to follow Christian Watson everywhere around the field. There's going to be moments where Christian Watson is lined up against him, and there's going to be moments where he's lined up against other players. But you got to remember, Christian Watson, fast, physical, he's bigger than Surtain. And we've seen some players have really nice games against Denver. We saw Terry McLaurin go 7 for 96 and a touchdown. We saw Keenan Allen back in week 3 have a good game. Devonta Smith, Wan'Dale Robinson, Quentin Johnston, George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, a lot of players. Nico Collins, went 7 for 75 a few weeks back. A lot of big receivers can perform well here. So I'm not afraid of, I'm not going to make too big a deal about this Pat Surtain matchup for Christian Watson. I expect him to continue to play well. And honestly, the last 5 weeks, let me see where Christian Watson ranks among receivers here. He is wide receiver 8 in the last 5 weeks. He's got 5 touchdowns in 5 games. He's averaging 16 points per game. Like, it looks really good for Christian Watson, man. He's averaging, again, about 6 to 7 targets per game, 4 or 5 catches. I at this point, I kind of trust Christian Watson, man. And more so, I trust Jordan Love. And Christian Watson's caught 4 passes at least in each of the last 4 games. He's been over 46 yards in all touchdowns. Like, it looks really good for him. And he's got a pretty safe floor. And good evening to Gibson. Hope you're doing well. Purdy or Jackson Dart is the question. That one's tough because I did rank Purdy pretty highly. Like, he's playing the freaking Tennessee Titans. So I have Purdy pretty high at QB 10 this week, but I got Jackson Dart QB 7 coming off a bye. A healthy cast of weapons here with Tracy and Wandale and Slayton and a couple other guys, Theo Johnson, plus the legs for Dart. So I'm going to go Jackson Dart here. Purdy's safer, obviously, but it's against the Washington Commanders. We're going to go Dart. And good evening to David. Full PPR question. We need one of these running backs and a flex. Walker, Neal, Charbonnet, Burden, Flournoy. I'm expecting Alvin Kamara to miss one more game at least. So I have Devin Neal ranked as my RB 30 this week here. I still don't feel good about it. Don't feel great about it. I feel like he's a 7 to 10 point floor kind of guy in a full PPR. Get 2-3 catches, 40-50 yards rushing. Just can't really bank on those rushing touchdowns every week from Devin Neal. Whereas Kenneth Walker, I have him up at RB 21 going up against the Colts. I know Walker has responded pretty well to some bad games this year. And this game, man, we don't know who the Colts are starting at QB. It feels pretty desperate for the Colts right now to be bringing in Phillip Rivers. So I see Seattle kind of rolling through this game and having a really nice day. I'm thinking Kenneth Walker's the running back that I want here. 80 to 100 yards probably in this one, and he just needs to break a big play for a touchdown. So I'm going to go Walker as my RB. And then between Burden and Flournoy, we have to continue to watch Rome Odunze, who practiced today, and CeeDee Lamb both practiced today. With that being said, if Rome Odunze plays and CeeDee Lamb both play, I'm going to go with Luther Burden here, who I know is the wide receiver 3 in that offense. And he's kind of been the best receiver the last couple of weeks for the Bears. So it's tough. Otherwise, if you don't want to go with the receiver at flex, I think I'm going to just play Devin Neal. If Kamara's out, we'll go Walker and Devin Neal. Let's wait and see what Rico Dowdle does at practice tomorrow. Maybe this was a day off of rest here. Wednesday, again, not that super important to be involved with from a practice standpoint, but Chuba did look really good the last time we saw this Panthers team. They're playing the Saints at home. I kind of want to get Chuba in the lineups if I got him this week, especially now that Dowdle is potentially injured. They might just kind of shift back to Chuba here. So we have to continue to watch and monitor Rico, but Chuba, I might have to move Chuba up in my rankings. And yeah, thank you, Ron, for the lovely comments here. But I just want to say thank you to everyone that's been with me all season. Like, this is a lot. There's a lot of work, man, to be doing videos Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this is week 15 now. And then on top of that, all the videos we've been making throughout August, even July and August, getting prep ready for fantasy football season. So it all comes down to these final 3 weeks. I hope everyone has a great round 1 and get you guys into round 2 for the final 4. Good evening to Caleb here. Lions defense or Saints defense, only week 16, 17 bye secured. Let me take a look here at this matchup here, because we've been kind of talking about the Saints for the last few weeks. We really like the Saints schedule. Let me familiarize myself with the Lions schedule here. So they get Pittsburgh and Minnesota, which I think is fine for matchups, but I'm probably going to just stick with the New Orleans Saints. I really like what they have. Against Pittsburgh at home, that's fine. And then at Minnesota, you never know. And the Lions defense, they just lost Branch. They still have Hutchinson, which is nice, but they really haven't been a great defense those last few weeks. So I'm a little concerned there. Whereas the Saints, we're talking about as juicy of matchups as we can get. We're going to get the New York Jets in New Orleans, and then we're at Tennessee. I think I'm going with the Saints in both of those games. So week 16, 17, I'm going to go with the Saints. Yeah, so Jaden Higgins should be picked up. I think he's a good play this weekend. I actually have him. I've got Jaden Higgins up at wide receiver 37. I have Luther Burden ranked ahead of him right now, but again, that's with me anticipating Rome Odunze not playing, but I might have to change that up a little bit. So I'll tell you what, I would go ahead and add Jaden Higgins and dump Ryan Flournoy. Just because it's looking like CeeDee Lamb might play. The fact that he was able to practice limited today, he did have a few extra days rest. I think he's going to try and play this weekend. The Cowboys need him to play. So if you want to pick up Jaden Higgins, I don't hate Jaden Higgins because if Rome Odunze plays, I'm probably going to move Luther Burden down a little bit, which would have Higgins ranked. He's been a pretty dang good wide receiver. I'm going to pull up those last 5-week stats here again and just see where Jaden Higgins is coming out. So last 5 weeks, I have Jaden Higgins as wide receiver 20. In those 5 games, he's got 2 touchdowns, 21 catches, 234 yards, a solid 11.3 points per game, which is looking pretty nice here. So I think he's pretty safe. I don't think he's like a high-end wide receiver 3 or anything. I think he's just a strong wide receiver 3 flex. But I would go with Higgins against Arizona, especially, again, trying to avoid some of this weather that we're going to get this weekend. I think Houston versus Arizona is a good game to be picking into. Oh my goodness, Brian Thomas Jr. I'm probably the worst guy to ask Brian Thomas Jr. questions because I'm always going to shoot for the moon with my guy BTJ. But I got BTJ up at wide receiver 30 this weekend, slightly ahead of guys like Debo, Quinton, Egbuka, Khalil Shakir. And then I do have Michael Pittman Jr. at wide receiver 28, which I don't know. I kind of want to see Riley Leonard out there. I don't want to see Phillip Rivers. Riley Leonard was at least able to throw the ball to Michael Pittman and had a nice fantasy floor day without scoring a touchdown last weekend. So if it's Riley Leonard, I'm probably going to move Pittman ahead of some guys, actually. So I feel good about Pittman if it's Riley Leonard. If it's Phillip Rivers, that's panic mode for me. I don't know what I'm getting here. I might pull out of that. And then with Brian Thomas Jr., just against the Jets, man, he finally made a big play that reminded me of last year where it's like that's the guy right there. That one-handed catch that Trevor Lawrence threw down the field down the right sideline. That was like one of the first plays that we've really seen Brian Thomas be himself all season. So that was really good to see. But the thing with Brian Thomas is he's not the wide receiver 1 that we drafted, that we anticipated this year, and that's okay. I'm willing to admit that was a mistake, but for now, he is a very valuable role player that is going to get, 5-6 targets per game. He's going to make 3, maybe 4 big catches per game, hopefully, and get us that 8 to 12 points. So I really like Brian Thomas's matchup against the Jets. I might move BTJ up a little bit because I think there's some momentum there for him and really the Jags and Trevor Lawrence in general. I do like Godwin this week. I do like Chris Godwin, man. He's been able to knock the rust off the last few games. Mike Evans will be rusty. I would think his cardio is going to be fine, though, but he might just look a little rusty. It was a collarbone issue, so I'm not quite sure where he's at with his conditioning. But I'm going to rank Godwin the highest of all Bucs receivers. I have Godwin, Egbuka, and then Evans. I'm probably going to have Mike Evans right around that Brian Thomas Jr. range, wide receiver 30, where we're just trying to make 3-4 plays and hope one of them's a touchdown. It's a big game tomorrow night for Tampa Bay. So I do like kind of like all Buccaneers receivers. I think this is a huge statement game for Tampa Bay off a bad loss at home against the Saints. Start 2 running backs, 3 receivers, 1 flex. This is next week. You got Gibbs and Bucky, Quinshawn Woody, Blake Corum, JSN Rice. We're going to stick with the running backs here first. You're going to keep playing Gibbs and Bucky. Those are your top 2 running backs. And then the 3 receivers, you're going to keep playing JSN. You're going to keep playing Rice. You're going to keep playing Adams. Like, those are the clear guys for me. Week 16, just looking around real quick here. Let me see what I can find. Quinshawn Judkins is going to get the Buffalo Bills. That's actually a really good matchup for Quinshawn Judkins, especially in Cleveland too. Like, Buffalo is one of the worst run defenses, so I like that matchup. Houston gets the Raiders, so that's another good matchup for Woody. Blake Corum, we got to see what Kieran Williams is looking like. So that one, I'm probably the least high on Corum here. It's between Quinshon and Woody for flex. Egbuka and Mike Evans, yeah, maybe let's get a look at those guys tomorrow night and see if we're feeling any way. They're going to get Carolina next weekend, which is actually, that's a tough matchup on paper for receivers versus their corners. So I'm likely flexing Quinshon Judkins or Woody Marks. If I had to have a gun to my head right now, I'm probably going to go with Woody Marks against the Raiders. But you can't really go wrong. Quinshon or Woody, I think those guys are both really strong. Like, if CD plays, I need 2 out of Pittman, BTJ, and Watson. If CD does play, I'm going to lock in. If CD plays, I need 2 out of Pittman, BTJ, Watson. I'm going to play Christian Watson over the other 2 guys just because he's just been on fire lately. And then I think this is more of a vibe thing for me. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is probably going to finish the season here pretty strongly. He's getting the Jets. This is a really good matchup against the Jets, who allow a ton of wide receiver fantasy points here. Let me actually pull that up for us. And then I'm pretty nervous about this Colt stuff here, man. I think the floor for Pittman is like absolute like 2 points. And I know BTJ has had some pretty bad floor games here, but I'm concerned about this game for the Colts. Brian Thomas Jr., again, he gets the Jets, which on paper, the Jets actually are pretty good against wide receivers, but I'm going to probably sit Michael Pittman Jr. there. Frosty says Bucks or Bears D. I'm going to probably go with the Buccaneers D tomorrow night. Thursday night football game. It's going to be low scoring. That Bears defense will be a good ranked team. And actually, I have the Bears ranked higher, so I'm going to change my tune. I'm going to go Chicago Bears on Sunday in that negative degree game with the wind chill. We're going to go Chicago Bears against the Browns. And good evening to Christian. Harvey, Hampton, or Dowdle? The answer is not Dowdle. Just with him missing practice today and the emergence of Chuba Hubbard last week that we saw him, I'm not going to be saying to start Rico Dowdle over these 2 guys. I like both Hampton and Harvey. I have Hampton at RB19 against the Chiefs and RJ Harvey RB16 against the Packers. So I'm going to lean RJ Harvey here. I think he's, going to catch 3, 4, 5 passes. The Packers are pretty good against opponent running backs. In fact, like they're one of the best at limiting the run and big plays. But I'm going to stick with Harvey here. Just a better environment, I think, there. Michael Wilson, MPJ. MPJ. Who's MPJ? Michael Wilson, MPJ. I'm thinking Michael Porter Jr. Who's MPJ? Might be MHJ, McConkey, or BTJ. I'm going to go with Ladd McConkey here. Michael Pittman Jr. Okay, so if Marvin doesn't play, we're going to play Michael Wilson. Otherwise, I think McConkey would be the next man up, and then I'd leave it at that. I'm going to leave Pittman Jr. and BTJ off on the sidelines. If Marvin is in, I'll play McConkey. Marvin out, I'll play Michael Wilson. That's a fun question. I think in the offseason, I might take a couple weeks off in January from, doing live streams and things like that, but we're going to start to get into some dynasty situations, which I think will be fun, Frosty. And I was talking to my friends earlier today, and I don't know how you fix the Falcons because they need to find another backup plan. The 2-3 year outlook for Michael Penix right now is it's very cloudy. We don't know if he's going to be able to play and be healthy for us. So I am assuming Penix will be ready for the start of the year, but they need to have some other quarterback ready in training camp that can help push him and be their fail-safe option. So I'm expecting the Falcons to go after a quarterback, maybe it's Mac Jones, maybe it's I don't know, Marcus Mariota comes over. We bring another quarterback in as a fail-safe here because it's not going to be Kirk Cousins. They don't want that. So overall, though, I'm not going to be too afraid of who Drake London's quarterback is. We've seen him play with some bad quarterbacks before, whether it's Desmond Ridder, baby Michael Penix, the ghost of Kirk Cousins. He's been pretty good despite all these bad quarterbacks that he's had to deal with. And I think, it would have been nice because we were finally starting to get some monster games from Drake London, like massive 100-yard games, huge target totals, touchdowns. So Penix did kind of unlock his ceiling. But for now, I don't really think it matters who his quarterback is, man. I think he's proven to be pretty fail-safe. And we'll see. They got to add a veteran, though. Who do I rank the highest this week? Flournoy, C. Watson, Jaden Reed. It's going to be Christian Watson for me. If CeeDee Lamb does not play, I'm still going to rank Ryan Flournoy behind Jaden Reed. So it would be Watson, Reed, Flournoy would be my comfortability. And hey, I appreciate you, Caleb, hanging out with us tonight and asking questions. True. Very true. But on the flip side of that, like, this is the kind of game where big dumb plays are had, and we could easily get a Brian Thomas Jr. 50, 60-yard strike. I feel it coming. I don't know what in wishful, but I think the Jags are going to probably show some muscle against the Jets and kind of get everything clicking. And yeah, the Colts will be playing from behind. I get it. So maybe, and again, I do have Brian Thomas Jr. ranked wide receiver 30 right now. I have Michael Pittman Jr. ranked wide receiver 28. So it's really close. It's more of like, okay, do I want to go with the safety comfort floor of a Michael Pittman Jr.? Or do I want to kind of shoot for a higher ceiling potentially with Brian Thomas Jr.? So I'm going to say Pittman's the safer call. You have Vele and Godwin. Would you use them over Jaden Higgins? I would probably play Chris Godwin tomorrow night. I'm not afraid of that matchup against the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons technically on paper are pretty middle of the road. But their season is just kind of cooked. This one's in Tampa Bay as well. I think we see Tampa Bay kind of put some good things together tomorrow night. So I'm going to go Chris Godwin. Let me just look at Chris Godwin's numbers the last few games since he returned. And yeah, I kind of wrote Chris Godwin off as dead earlier in the year, and all of a sudden he's back and he's playing good. It's been 3 games for him, basically. Well, week 12, 13, and 14. So he's been back for 3 games. He went 5 for 55 last weekend against the Saints with 8 targets, 3 for 78 against the Cardinals in week 13. So about 10 points per game there the last couple of weeks. I think he continues to earn 5 to 10 targets per game. So I'm going to stick with Godwin. Maybe it was just because Michael Wilson was right next to MPJ, so my head maybe that meant MHJ. I'm not quite sure. If Rico is out, man, I really want to play TreVeyon Henderson. Let me think about this scenario. So I have TreVeyon Henderson as RB12 at home against Buffalo. Man, that's a prime. I can just see TreVeyon making some big plays in that game. And then I do have Woody Marks a little bit lower at RB22. So I would play Hubbard over Woody for sure, but I'm just a little concerned. If Rico's out and we get a full Chuba Hubbard game, that's kind of a coin flip. I think I'm going to side with Chuba Hubbard here, and I would probably move Hubbard up to my RB12 spot and put Henderson just one behind him. So I think if that's where it's headed and Rico is out, which again, it's Wednesday. If Rico practices tomorrow and all this is moot, like that can totally happen. But I think if Rico is out, I'm going to probably go with Chuba just based on volume. We're flexing Pittman, Hampton, BTJ, Michael Wilson, assuming Marvin starts. So assuming Marvin starts, I'm probably going to go with Amari and Hampton. Just avoid a lot of this receiver mess here and just stick with a promising running back pick here. Let me just look at the numbers from Omar in his first game back last week. And it was not a great game against the Eagles, but he did get 13 carries for 56 yards. He caught 2 passes, 11 yards, and a touchdown. Even if we remove the touchdown, I think that's still a safe floor. Again, 3 points from the PPR game and 56 yards rushing. I do feel confident. And before he went down with injury, man, he was starting to really, catch 5-6 passes per game. Huge pieces there. So I'm going to play Amari and Hampton against the Chiefs in this question. And the Kansas City Chiefs still a good defense. They held Amari and Hampton week 1. They held Amari and Hampton to 8 fantasy points, which I think things have changed a little bit. So I'm going to play Hampton here, play it safe because I think he's got the safest floor. if Marvin Harrison plays. If Marvin Harrison doesn't play, we're going to go Michael Wilson. Definitely not Darren Waller here, T-Rone. I'm looking at my rankings here. I have Dallas Goedert probably right next to Juwan Johnson. Yeah, I have Dallas Goedert tight end 18 this week and Juwan Johnson tight end 16. I do feel pretty comfortable with Juwan Johnson. He's been a good player the last month and a half or so. Started off the season hot, then he kind of faded, and now he's kind of become more consistent of late. Tyler Shuck playing pretty well too. My rest of season rankings. Let's pull those up here. This is a really tough question because I think these guys are going to be kind of neck and neck. And it's going to come down to just a gut feeling. I have Dallas Goedert at our tight end 14 the rest of the way. Juwan Johnson tight end 18. So technically, I would probably just hold on to Dallas Goedert here. Definitely not Darren Waller, but I could see Juwan and Goddard kind of, flipping vice versa, but I'll stick with Goddard. Definitely Chicago Bears. I don't think I want to mess with the Cowboys this weekend. We finally saw a little bit of life from the Vikings offense, and the Cowboys just tend to give up a lot of points here. And we get a really good matchup for the Chicago Bears at home against Cleveland, an offense that put up a lot of yards last week, but they still lost to the Tennessee Titans. And there's only 38.5 points implied in the Chicago Bears Cleveland Browns game. So Dallas, Minnesota, we're talking 47.5. That's almost 10 more points in that game here. And Chicago is favored to win by 7.5. So I'm going Chicago Bears pretty easily. You need 2 receivers and a flex. Nico, Olave, Devontae McLaurin, Debo, Jalen Warren, Gainwell, Corum. 2 receivers and a flex. Yeah, we're going to play Nico, and I'm going to stick with Chris Olave as my 2 receivers. And then my flex, I'm probably going to stick with Jalen Warren. I like Devonta Smith, but they've just been so hard to trust. I trust Jalen Warren getting touches, especially against a Miami Dolphins defense that I really can't name too many players on. So I'm going to stick with that. And Panthers also available. I like the Carolina Panthers this week, but I really have a hard time trusting kind of mediocre teams, especially on the road. This team, Carolina, lost to the Saints a few weeks back, and the Saints are playing good football right now. I'm not going to mess with it. I'm going to stick with the Chicago Bears, who lost a really tough game to the Packers last weekend. They need this one. It's Cleveland. I'm not going to get too cute. I'm going to stick with the Chicago Bears. So there you guys have it. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me tonight. That's it for questions. I will be back tomorrow evening. If you guys want to hang out, 6:30 p.m. Central Time, we'll be live. We'll go over anything else that, practice news, player news, all that kind of good stuff. I'll answer questions, and we'll get you guys ready for Thursday Night Football and Week 15 in general. So thank you guys for your time. I appreciate everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.